Sure, I can start now. Sure, my name is Jack. I have no faith in the bourgeois state to not pass this legislation that would give the racist, white supremacist police more weapons to kill and terrorize us with. I have no faith in these petty bourgeois bureaucrats to not pass this legislation that will give the police more weapons to terrorize Black, brown, and working class people with. I think, well, the only group that I do have faith in that can stop the police from becoming further militarized is the working class. We need a general strike to happen. In Kingston, the three largest employers are Hannaford's, Target, and Home Depot. If the workers there were to go on strike and demand that the police are not further militarized, then I think we could get somewhere. But let's try and make that happen.
Hi there, I'm Shannon Wong. I'm the Assistant Director of Regional Offices for the New York Civil Liberties Union, which is the ACLU of New York. And we have been fighting this issue on a state level and in communities throughout the state. It's an honor to stand here and bear witness in this space with all of the people who are being honored by these puppets. But the truth is they've all been killed by the police. And you're about to arm the police further. There is no need for weapons of war in our streets where Black and brown people are already being killed by the government, by the police. There is no reason to give further militarization to the police department. There are images on the news of police wearing helmets and masks and toting assault rifles and riding in mine-resistant armored vehicles. They're happening all over the nation. I've seen them happen all throughout the Hudson Valley, particularly during protests during last summer's uprising. Federal programs that are providing you with the surplus military equipment, along with the material and the firepower the police department already have, is far beyond what is necessary. We're outside talking about defunding the police, about investing in things that will truly support and solve problems. We do not need more weapons that are going to harm people. And the change in equipment that is often paralleled by a corresponding change in the attitude whereby police conceive themselves as at war with communities rather than as public servants concerned with community safety. And that's already a struggle. We need to return to where communities are taking care of themselves and have the resources to care for themselves and keep themselves safe. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Royer. I'm the criminal justice organizer with Rise Up Kingston. Many of you know my story. My daughter was assaulted by the local police department. Actually, the SROs that are in the school across the street. She received facial contusions, chest wall contusions, a sprained wrist. They touched her inappropriately in the back of their police car, and they withheld her inhaler for about 20 minutes while she screamed she couldn't breathe. It breaks my heart to sit here and have to talk about a tank being brought into our town when an 11-year-old girl was just killed at exit 19 on the thruway in Kingston, and no one's talking about that. Not one of you, I haven't seen, not one of you bring up Monica Good's name, not in a post, not asking for justice. Not a city official, not a county official, not a state official. Everyone came and marched with us. Y'all came and marched with us and said Black Lives Matter. Do they matter when someone was killed here and no one is asking for justice? This is the same thing that happened to my daughter. Everyone pushed it under the rug. What we really should just be discussing tonight is justice for Monica Goods and not a fucking tank.
Good afternoon. My name is William Marshall. Good afternoon, Mr. Davis. I was about 14 years old when my grandmother's front door was nearly kicked in. And the last thing I think we need is more weapons in Kingston, New York. The last thing we need to do is give the police more power that they are already abusing. This power has been abused for years. My grandmother's front door was nearly kicked in when not a single weapon was found during a drug raid. Why so many weapons when there are no weapons being used against the police? That's all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Rachel Gans. And again, I am also speaking as to why is this even a vote? Why is this even in front of you? Where are the people that there was a tent village, there were tents housing homeless people in Kingston? Where are they now? Their tents were slashed in March of this year. People are losing their homes in Chises and in other places. What are you doing? Where is a vote on housing for the homeless? So I absolutely urge every one of you to oppose purchasing a tank, which is, as everyone here knows, completely unnecessary. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Callie Jane. I am a Kingston resident and I work at Rise Up Kingston. And thanks for having us back here in City Hall. It's really important that you all hear from the community. And I'm hoping that you're not scrolling through Facebook, but you're maybe taking some notes over there, coming council member Davis. But it's really, really important for you all to hear these voices. I hope you're taking notes because we've been talking about this for a very, very long time and it doesn't seem like you've been paying attention. We've been talking about we need justice. We've been talking about we need change, not only just within our police department where they are running around and abusing and harassing and assaulting and traumatizing our community, but also in where we put our money and how we are actually trying to make sure that our communities are thriving. And you all may say, this is a grant and this is a different funding stream. And there's so many different reasons why it's okay to have this, but free violence is still violence. And so we can't talk about this from a dollars and cents standpoint about how it is maybe fiscally responsible. You are trying to push forth violence if you allow a tank in our city. And our county executive a year ago wrote a whole op-ed saying that we need to demilitarize. And here we are in Kingston saying, no, we need our own tank. There is no way that we can move forward on this decision and that anyone in this community can have real trust in you all if you allow this to move forward. So I hope that you will say no today to any funding, anything that will move forward us having militarized police forces in our city.
My name is Alan Goldhammer. I live in Esopus, but Kingston is the center, and I'm very, very glad. I'm very, very glad that there exists in Kingston a coalition of grassroots groups that have formed and are working to make this community a better place out of the goodness of their hearts. And it makes me sad and it makes me despair to think that you're thinking about bringing in a tank, bringing in nothing that can do any more than create fear. We need less fear in this community. A tank is nothing but scary. And these gut feelings that drive all of us in this room, in this community, are really what motivates everything else. We need here calm, gentle, firm voices speaking the truth and working to make this community better. I urge this body to not bring more weapons in. And I urge this body to seriously consider changing the budget so that money is put towards helping people win people's hearts, and the rest will follow. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly Kelly. I'm Executive Director of O Positive Festival. And I'm asking you to consider, I mean, she thinks no too. She's like not with it either. I'm asking you to consider whose lives you're prioritizing. Holly Kelly of O Positive Festival, Executive Director. I'm asking you to question whose lives you're prioritizing. Are you prioritizing police lives? Do you think that they're in jeopardy? Is that why you're considering funding this? Are they in jeopardy? No, they're not. They have other means to achieve whatever. Way more means than they should have by about 22% in this city, I will add. That said, bear with me, sorry. Hey, you okay? Want to go down? Thank you. All right, thank you. That said, who are you terrorizing by making this decision to fund this? Who is already scared? Who is afraid for their lives in their community, our community? Whether or not you think you are harming anybody by making this decision, you are. It's a statement, it's an action, it's a tangible choice to terrorize people. And I actually am looking at you and I don't think that's what you mean to do by voting for this. I think you're protecting the community, and I'm here and we're all here to tell you you are not. So I ask you to look around and see all of us looking at you, seeing the steps you're about to take, and really reach down deep inside and vote based upon the fact that you're representing everybody here. Thank you.
We have 4 more speakers that want to say something. And we'll take over the meeting.
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. For too long. We've been shut out of meetings. Now we're back. You have to hear us.
Thank you, committee. I'm Phil Erner. I live in the 5th Ward. It's the County Legislative District 6. I'm the Democratic nominee, having just won election. And I'm here with many folks who voted for me. I'm here with my community. I'm here to support. And all I need to say is if I were able to vote, I would vote against this MRAP. Thank you.
Say thank you. Thank you.
I saw.
Woo!
I said.
Mic check. We're going now.
Hi, my name is Jessica Alonso. I just want to say I am completely against the tank, and I wonder why immediately when I hear a tank in Kingston, why and who is it benefiting? I don't know anyone in my life who I'm connected to that would see a tank as necessary. And I think it just adds to the fear that people feel when they think of police, when they see police. I think personally, police should be working to build community, and a tank is just going to completely terrorize the neighborhood. And I don't know, just create just like such a strong sense of intimidation that is already felt by everyone, especially young people, especially young Black and brown people. So I think that there are a lot of other better things that can be bought than a tank. I think investing in the community, investing in neighborhoods, housing is so much more important than a tank. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'll be quick, and I'm sure, my name is Charity. I'm sure this is a point that's been made.
Can you get it closer to the mic?
I'm sure this is a point that has been made by this community before, but I'd like to make the point that, first of all, policing does not prevent crime. It addresses crime after it has occurred, okay? With that in mind, and with another fact in mind, that deterrence does not lower crime rates. When you abolish the death penalty, murders do not go up. So considering those facts, what are you trying to do with a tank? What do you need a tank to address? What is happening in the community, crime-wise, that a tank will address? Because it's not going to deter, excuse me, I'm not good at speaking in public. It's not going to deter crime. We know this, all the facts point to this. It's not going to deter crime. So what are you trying to achieve in terms of justice, retribution with a tank? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sam. I'm here to tell you to not vote for buying an armored vehicle for the Kingston Police Department. I don't know where all of you have been if you're thinking about voting for it, because I just watched for a year as heavily armed police forces brutalize civilian populations in America and around the world. This happened in Poughkeepsie last year, where the citizens of that city came to peacefully march around their town, and then the police showed up with multiple armored vehicles, gas screens, riot cops. And what I at least have seen, in the media is peaceful protests happen, armored and police that are ready to do violence to people show up and escalate the situation. So I don't know I read the Freeman article where you're talking, they're talking about how there was a a gun violence incident where they felt they needed an armored vehicle. You can say that you're going to use it for whatever. The truth is it's going to be used against the people of this town. Because that's what you do. That's what happened in Poughkeepsie. That's what happened in New York. That's what happens all across the world. So if you have a heart in you and you don't want to see people hurt, do not give the police in this city another tool to brutalize people.
I promise, there's no more speakers, but it's really disgusting to see Chief Tinty standing in the doorway, smiling and laughing at all of us while we're worried about our family.
I said, welcome everybody to our Finance Committee meeting. We're getting started here at 1 minute after 7. Our usual way of starting is to have the comptroller give us an overview of the current economic state of the city. After that, we will go through the agenda. If you're unclear on the agenda, it is on the city's website. You can go to kingston-ny.gov. And if you go to the bottom of the page, there will be a calendar. Click on Finance, and you can find the agenda there if you want to follow along. All right. Thank you. Oh, these are all the same.
Ready?
Everybody ready? Hello, John.
Hi, thank you. I emailed each of you a financial report update for the month of July. I've updated these two sheets that you have in front of you, which are, our main topics of discussion for tonight, showing the financial status of the city for the year 2021. Positive variances continue to improve for the year. I would like to point out that significant positive variances in regular pay due to vacancies exist. We're 36.6% expended versus we're 41.7% through the year. That is a significant positive variance. We also have significant associated variances in employee benefits, primarily due to those vacancies. Additionally, the main change in the revenue side for this month, I would like to point out the sales tax has been exceptionally strong, I think is probably a modest way to say this. Our collections through current are nearly $7.2 million on a year-to-date basis. At this time last year, we're at 5.4 million. And the prior year, which was the pre-COVID period, which is probably the better comparison, we were at 5.8 million. So, either way you look at it, we're approximately, anywhere from 1.3 up to $1.7 million above the last 2 years at the same time frame. So, additionally, we have positive variances AIM funding, which we talked about, that was approved by New York State after the city's budget. was adopted. All told, at this point, without having any significant unexpected expenditures, and there are some that are outstanding in terms of contracts that are expired, 2021 looks very favorable. So, any questions?
Any questions for John? All right. Oh,
I just want to know what was in 2020 contingency budget at this time, if you had that figure.
I don't have it right in front of me, Tony. I can,
You can
sure.
get back to me.
I can email it to you.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. Can you just really make sure you're talking into the microphones so the live stream could pick it up as well as everybody else? Thank you.
great. All right, so our next item of business is a transfer in the Parks and Recreation division for music in the parks. I believe Liz Tinty, you're going to tell us what this is about.
So this is actually going through the Parks Department, but Lindsay is not available, so she asked me to write the communication and do the request. There was no music in the parks plan because of COVID, and was not anticipated that things would lift as quickly as they did. So they are trying to put together 2 music in the parks that will happen. It will piggyback on Movies Under the Stars. So it would be 2 of the movies would be opened up by music events. So Lindsay is asking that $2,000 be transferred. This transfer has a 0 financial impact. So it's just going from her recreation committed fund to contracted services. And of course, they don't know how much of that they'll use, but whatever is left over would remain there.
Thank you, Alyssa. So it says $2,000 financial impact on the on the report. So I crossed that out. It'll be 0, right?
Yeah.
There is no financial impact. 0 financial impact.
Yeah, I'm just saying on the committee report, it
Cross
says
that off.
$2,000. So I
Yes,
crossed
that
it
can
out
be
and put in
crossed.
0. Okay.
Yes, that can be struck.
All right. Then if any questions for Alyssa? Yes, Andrea Schott.
I'm not sure if you have this answer or I should talk directly to Lindsay, but as everybody probably knows, musicians really got hit hard during the pandemic. So I'm just curious how much of this $2,000, I know there's 2 events. I'm assuming it's $1,000 per event. And is this going to pay the musicians? Or just
Yes,
gonna compensate?
that is the plan. They had, they're doing an open call, and I know that they've had many, I want to say 21 people respond, and it'll be all used towards to pay the musicians.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, then if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion to discuss. Motion by Steve Shabbat, second by Tony Davis. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. There we go. The second item is a transfer in the Civil Service Office. Jackie DeSico, welcome. Oh, if you'll sit over here where the microphone, or over there where the microphone is, wherever there's a microphone.
So this was a transfer for several reasons. One was because I cut the budget a lot last year due to COVID, not knowing if we would be able to give exams again. The state is trying to do catch up now to get a lot of exams taken care of that were postponed. As a result, a lot of different exams are being scheduled on the same day. So we had to switch some money around for that. I was also asked by the Comptroller's office to change where I was charging the pay for proctors. So I usually take that from appointed officials. However, they've asked me to add a line for part-time. So that's for all the exam proctors. I'm requesting money from contingency to pay for a standalone printer for the civil service office due to the amount of confidential information we print on a daily basis. We've been using the main copier that everyone shares in City Hall, and it's difficult at times to get out there in time to get it before someone takes something. And because it has personal information on it, most everything we print, we felt it was important that at this point we try and get a printer. And then the final thing was to support a conference, a training conference that was in the budget for 2020 that was scheduled for June of last year. It was canceled. They tried to schedule it again for this June. It was still canceled. They've now changed the dates to October. And it is the only opportunity I have to be with people who do what I do. So because of all the hot topics this year, I thought it was important that I attended. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Jackie? In that case, I'll entertain a motion to discuss. Michelle Hirsch, seconded by Tony Davis. Any discussion? Any discussion? In that case, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye, please. All opposed, say no. Great, thank you. It passes unanimously. You're not voting? Yes, okay. Thank you, Jackie. All right, the next item are two transfers in the police department. I believe Chief Tinty is here to tell us what these are about. Steve. Oh, no, you're there. Sorry. Two different pointing reasons. You have to turn it on. Yeah.
We have a number of transfers. Oh, the retirement.
Yes, retirement is the first one. Thank you.
So the first item on the one of the budget modifications we're asking for is the retirement accumulation account, the 105, being increased out of contingency by $46,479.14. That is the payout of the two members of the department that recently retired this year. They were not anticipated. We've had, I believe this is number 6 so far to date this year. And that money in the 105 was never budgeted for.
All right, any questions? Chief Tinty on that issue. Any questions? All right, in that case, I'll call for motion to discuss. Steve Shabbat. Tony Davis. Any discussion? See no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion is unanimous. The next one is a transfer of $100,000. And tell us what that one's about.
Which one? For the
Tactical team grant.
Okay, yes,
Homeland
that's correct.
Security.
Yep. So we're showing $100,000. There's a modified report we're going to be submitting that reflects a different amount total. So as you've probably read in the paper, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, we were able to secure, this is the third one in a row, $100,000. So we've secured 2 other $100,000 grants for tactical equipment based upon an assessment. And if you don't mind, I'd like to bring up Deputy Chief Mike Bont to talk about. Mike, you were responsible for, yeah, if you don't mind, just grab a quick. I'll have the Deputy Chief go over the assessment procedure, just so you know, as council members, what was involved and what equipment we qualified for.
Am I on now? Okay, there we go. So the funding comes from a grant from Homeland Security. There's an annual grant available, or most years it's available. It's a tactical team grant. It's designed for municipalities that have a tactical response team, in our case, the Emergency Services Unit. We've had the team for several years. In recent years, the grant has been designed to help support the state certification process. Just like the police department is accredited, there is an accreditation standards or certification process through New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for SWAT teams. We attained that in 2017. We're only one of 17 teams statewide to get that, to meet all the policies, procedures, and training methodology. In an effort to support the accreditation process or the state certification process, Homeland Security puts forth the tactical team grant every year. Of recent years, it's only been available for teams that were in fact state accredited, which we were. So we were able to get that grant, and they applied it toward a armored vehicle, a rescue vehicle. How that came to pass, there's an annual assessment, the NICAD assessment. Essentially, you put in all of your equipment, you put in all of your personnel, you put in what all of your capabilities are as an agency and as a team. In our case, it's a joint team. We're a multi-jurisdictional team with the town of Ulster. And we list our capabilities, and then it gives you a report back telling you these are the areas that you may be deficient. And one of the things identified was in the armored vehicle. We currently do have an armored vehicle that's on military surplus. It's a peacekeeper. We've had it for about 10 years. We've deployed it with the Emergency Services Unit. It's a 1979 Dodge Ram Charger, and the motor has since died. So part of the assessment was to replace a piece of equipment that we have already. So we applied for that under the Homeland Security grant, and we were approved to get that, to meet that part of the NICAD assessment, that one deficiency. The main difference between what we're asking for now and what we currently have is the one we currently have is a military surplus vehicle. It was the United States Air Force. After it was decommissioned, it was used in another part of the state. I want to say it was Oswego or Owego County, one of those. And then when they upgraded their equipment, that was given to us on the 1033 program. And we've had that, like I said, about 10 years. We've had that. It's no longer serviceable. The motor doesn't run anymore. So we're looking to replace it with a Lenco Bearcat rescue vehicle, which is actually not a military surplus vehicle. It's a civilian company made for civilian law enforcement. That's what the vehicle itself would be. And that came to pass through the Homeland Security grant. There is no financial impact on the city. All of our part of the purchase of this is funded through Homeland Security funding.
So just to clarify, and I know there's been talk about it in the paper, this is not a tank. This is no different than a commercial Brinks armored car. This provides safety and security for the individuals in the vehicle to get up to tactically sound situations for retrieval and rescue. That's what this is. There are no gun turrets on it. It has no offensive capability. We've had the one you mentioned, Deb, has been in service for just under 10 years after the engine seized up on it. And we've deployed it a handful of times only in tactical situations. Most of you were not even aware that we had it. It's not in the parades. It's not being rolled up during school events. This is a vehicle necessary. And I just want to, everyone understand, when a situation occurs, we reach out for other agencies that have one. It is my responsibility and the responsibility of the leader of the emergency services team to bring in the tools that they need to effectively do the job. The nearest one is almost an hour away. That takes too long when lives are at stake. This grant is $100,000 from the Department of Homeland Security and another $75,000 that's coming from the town of Ulster. We have an emergency services team. The other $75,000 is from the town of Ulster. Their chief and I have spoke at great length. We have a mutual agreement in place, an MOU for the use of the emergency services team. They have members. We've worked this way for many years. It's working out very well. We responded to their jurisdiction and they've responded to ours. I think it's an excellent partnership. So in effect, we're extending that to include this piece of equipment. The other equipment we received from the last $200,000 grants is also shared equipment. This in particular is one purchase of the vehicle by the city of Kingston for the use in both jurisdictions. So there's no out-of-pocket expense for the city. It's just an approval of the revenue by the town of Ulster showing into the same equipment line as the $100,000 grant would go into.
Any questions or?
Good evening, Officer Monson, Chief Dente. Thank you for being here. I have a question about the assessment that was done and the assessment that looks at the equipment. Was the armored vehicle that the county sheriff's office has included in that? Because that is pretty close to our own municipality, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that is not included in our assessment. The assessment's for our emergency services unit. We're no longer a part of the county team. We were until about 2008 or 2009.
But they still deploy that when we need it. I mean,
They can deploy it. One of the issues with theirs, it's the size of the MRAP won't fit on some of the smaller city streets. And in my belief is they've had some mechanical problems with theirs and they're looking to replace or repair theirs as well.
And theirs is a military surplus vehicle. It was designed
Very
for
different.
military use.
I have one more question, if I may. There was also in the paper, I believe maybe someone from the town of Ulster stated that the county vehicle could be, out down in the southern part of the county, and we would need, access to a second vehicle. And is there any data to show that that vehicle needed to be deployed at the same time for separate incidents?
As far as I know, I can't recall a time where the county team and the city team were deployed at the same time. We don't really track the county team's deployment, just the city team's deployment. I'm not responsible for the rest of the county. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Tony Davis, then Steve Shabbat.
Tony Davis here. And Chief, and one thing that was mentioned by Officer Bonds, and I forgot your title now.
Deputy Chief, sir.
Deputy Chief, I'm sorry. You said it was a vehicle that's 1 hour away that we've utilized before? Or
Ours is the closest vehicle is about an hour away.
I couldn't hear that.
I'm sorry. The nearest vehicle is about an hour away, short of this MRAP.
And where's that located?
The state police currently have that vehicle.
New York State Police?
Correct.
Or state police right here? Or?
And they have not the barracks in Hurley, no. And they also have a Lenco Bearcat.
My other thing is if either one of you could say, and I mean, it's been mentioned the tank, in the audience, and it's not a tank. I'm reading through here and, it was mentioned earlier why I was on my phone. Reason I was on my phone is because I was trying to get some information about what kind of armor tank that is supposed to be being purchased so I could have some educated information about what I was going to be discussing. So can you describe what's the difference here saying about, it has gun ports and et cetera, et cetera. So what's the difference between this and a tank, an armored tank that's been sent out there? What's the difference between this?
One of the main things, one of the main things is there's no offensive tools or equipment that are attached to this, where a tank would have something that shoots a projectile first. Secondly, tanks would be a military surplus, and they generally are going to be on some type of tracks, like a tracked vehicle, like a dozer or something like that would be. This is regular car tires. It's the same as a Brinks truck, like the chief had mentioned. Gun ports, what they are in regard to this vehicle is essentially it's an armored vehicle that can withstand, certain caliber rifle rounds or up to. At different places on the side of the vehicle, there's little doors that could be opened up so that if you did have to shoot from the vehicle or deploy something from the vehicle or send something out of the car, you would have a little port that would open up rather than opening the whole door, opening the whole window. It's just a little port about that big.
I'm looking at the description here that I have here on my phone. If I'm looking at the description I have on my phone, there's an opening at the top, similar to, I wasn't in the military, similar to a tank where you can come up and have access to
So there are several variants of it. The one we're looking at is the G1. It's for generation one. It doesn't have any type of turret. There is a open roof, a round open roof on the top. But there is no, like, some of them have like armored shielding, or some of them may have equipment attached to it. This one doesn't. It's basically a slick top, but it does have open roof access, probably, I would say the roof hole is probably twice the size of that of like an emergency roof on a school bus.
One other question. Another question is, how many times has the tactical team been deployed, let's say, in the last 2 years?
I'd have to look. I would say, we probably get deployed once a month, is an average. The team gets deployed for a number of different things. Some of the missions are for missing children. Some of the missions are for executing search warrants or arrest warrants. The main priority is for emergency response, responding to, an armed individual or somebody that's in crisis that may be armed.
So you said, I was jotting this down, sometimes it's been deployed for missing children?
The team, the emergency services unit will be. So to be clear, the team gets deployed for a lot of things. We have a lot of purposes. Not all of them would require that piece of equipment. We currently have rolling bunker, like a rolling shield that you could put in like a hallway. I don't think we've deployed that in the last year or two, but we have it if we need it. We have hostage throw phones that if needed, we would deploy, but we don't deploy them on every, so the choice of the equipment is really driven by what the nature of the emergency is.
So the team's been deployed for missing children, emergency response, someone with a hostage or
Yep,
someone. And what was the other one you said?
Any of the emergency responses, armed barricades, if we have persons in crisis, if they happen to be armed or people refusing to come out, we've been used for high-risk warrant service. Not too often, but that's, part of what the team's purview would be. We also got deployed for assisting the fire department with the rescue of the young lady down off of Delaware Avenue that fell into the caves. We have rope rescue. We were deployed for a guy on the bridge in crisis just a couple weeks ago on the Old Port Ewan Bridge. And a call like that, we wouldn't need this piece of equipment.
That you would still be deployed, but you just wouldn't bring this?
The team would be deployed, but that truck wouldn't roll if it was, a person on the bridge in crisis.
So last question, as of right now, when would this vehicle have to be deployed for? In what kind of situation?
Generally, if there's going to be, report of gunfire armed, it would have to be on a SWAT team call out or emergency services unit call out. It would not be used for routine patrol. It would not be used for anything unless the emergency services unit's deployed.
Emergency response crisis.
Yeah.
And how many times in the past 2 years have you had emergency response crisis? Not rope rescue, not missing children, for emergency?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, sir. I can get that for you, though. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Steve Shabbat, and then Andrew Schott.
Thank you. Actually, I think Tony asked most of the questions I wanted to.
That is, but
Okay, sorry. Actually, I think Tony asked most of the questions I wanted to ask you, especially about deployment, situations you're thinking to use it in. Where's the vehicle going to be located? Where will it be sitting?
Yeah, as of right now, it appears that with our shared services agreement, if this goes through, it's going to be housed in the town of Ulster, and they have a closed garage for it in a secure location.
Okay. And you said we had the previous one, the military surplus in 79, did you say?
No. We've had it for about 10 years, but it's a
Okay.
1979.
79,
It's a armored body put on top of a 1979 Dodge Ram Charger.
All right. I know you couldn't give Tony a specific, but how many times, just rough estimate, how many times it's been deployed?
Probably 5 to 10 times. The last 2 or 3 years, we haven't been able to use it. It's non-functional. There was times in the last 2 years that we probably would have rolled it. We just didn't have it available for us.
So was it deployed as a primary vehicle in a situation or just a backup?
No, it's not used so much for vehicle. It would be used for if we had to get close to a location for communications, if we had to extract somebody, if we had to move people out of a house, because say there was something going on in one location and we had to evacuate people that were too close, we could put that between the house that we're evacuating from and where the incident's occurring. That type of thing. The other thing would be, we may use it for actually putting our immediate resources, our police officers, closer to the hotspot. Oftentimes now they may be a little bit further back. They may be using pieces of cover that are out in, natural environmental pieces of cover, where this would be able to put them closer to be able to respond quicker and not put them in harm's way.
All right, thanks.
Just to be clear, this is a specialty piece of equipment. I mean, this is limited use, limited access. This is only by members of the emergency services team of Ulster and Kingston. And the method of deployment, as far as the escalation for the approval to deployment, has to go through the chain of command. This isn't something that someone's going to grab a set of keys to and roll out of the garage. So I just want to make clear that, even the one that we had, that 79 Ram Charger, was deployed in a handful of situations, but it reached my level before I was okay to let it roll.
Steve, you done?
Yeah, thanks.
Andrea?
Hi, thank you. I have two questions, I believe. The first one I actually heard a couple hours ago, so I didn't get a chance to research it, but I heard we had a vehicle, an armored vehicle, and the city of Kingston gave it to Saugerties. This was a while ago, and Saugerties still uses it. Can you speak on that, if that's true, and if it is, more details?
So the vehicle that Saugerties took was a military surplus Humvee. We don't have military surplus except for this Ram Charger, I'll call it. I think they called it the Peacekeeper at the time, but so we no longer have that vehicle that was given to them, and it was what referred to as an up-armored Humvee. It did have some plating on the sides, but it really only sat 4 people, the driver, the passenger, and the 2 rear passengers. If you're familiar with a Humvee, you can see it's limited space, and it was never designed for a deployment in a rescue situation. We got it at the time. How long ago was that? Years ago we've had. So at the time, the military was cleaning out their closet essentially and said, here, we actually had 2. And we gave one back to military surplus. We had that one essentially for parts. And then the other one, I believe Saugerties took. They actually we didn't give it to them directly. They applied, and the DRMO program, the demilitarization program, assigned it to Saugerties. It just happened to be in Kingston at the time.
Oh, thank you. And then my other question is, right now, you said we haven't had this kind of vehicle in a couple of years. So when we have these emergencies, gunshot emergency call that goes up the command, we have a process right now that doesn't involve this armored vehicles. So, right? We have a process that has been working for the last few years that
really
we
is
don't
the time
necessarily need this vehicle.
It's just a time frame. And again, in a situation where the money isn't coming out of the city coffers, right? It's a grant assessed by New York State and then given to us by the state and then met with the town of Ulster. We're talking about reducing the time that this vehicle that's deployed in the Ulster Kingston area from 45 minutes to 5. And I understand that it may not be the politically correct thing to do in some cases. It may not be the politically correct thing to do, but we're talking about lives, officers' lives and civilians' lives. And so when I can only tell you, based upon the assessment of Homeland Security and years of doing tactical training within the department and outside the department, this is a necessary piece of equipment that we should have qualified for before. It just so happened that the grant was not allowing the use of those funds for the purchase of an armored vehicle, but it has no offensive capability. What you're hearing is not correct information. It is not a tank. There's no guns attached.
I would suggest if you have comments for the chief or any of the officers here, he's perfectly happy to talk to you. Please feel free to give him a call, email, text. He's very available. Any member, well, the vote is not until August. The actual vote is not until August. Tonight's vote is simply advisory. We don't stop it, even if everybody here votes against it. It doesn't stop this going to the common council. If there is a vote. No, committee votes are advisory. So if we vote on it tonight, that's an advisory opinion, and it will then go to the common council where it would be voted up or down. Right. I'm not going to argue anymore. If you want to discuss this, feel free to call or email or visit your alderperson. That's perfectly fine. Or feel free to call any member of the KPD, call the chief. We're all happy to discuss. We're all happy to hear your thoughts, get your opinions, and hear what you think we should do. However, this is a business meeting that is open to the public, so we'd appreciate that you would allow us to finish so that, yes. I hear that. Absolutely. But my point is that this is a business meeting and we like to finish because I think we'd all like to go home. And there are plenty of ways to let your voices be known besides this one. This is fine. We're glad you're here. But there are other ways that you can make specific comments. And so I hope you'll take advantage of that. All right. Thank you.
So in addition to the defensive capability, there is no offensive. It is just plates of steel on a chassis to deliver the officers in and to rescue people out. That's what this vehicle is. If you'd looked at it, it essentially is an armored vehicle, no different than a Brinks car that they use to transport money in. That's the difference. And I don't think an opportunity like this will present itself. This is a long-term, as we mentioned, the last one we have is 10 years that we've been able to service it. For those of you that understand the mechanics of a vehicle, it has a manual choke on it. That's how old this thing is. So it's an old vehicle and it has served us well. It has very limited use. We don't deploy it for any other reason except for high emergency, very tactically directed situations. And I think, you know, as many as there are people here that may voice their opinion against it, I can tell you that there are members of the public in this city that want that capability for the police department. And although they may not be here, I encourage them, if they're listening or watching, to call the alderman to show their support as well.
There will also be, I'm sorry, there's also another chance when we have our common council meetings, there's always open speaking before the meeting. That's built into the agenda. That's a time when anybody can come and speak on an issue. So I hope you'll feel free to come that night. And anybody who's watching, of course, people on any side of the issue, it doesn't matter. There's a free time to speak. I would suggest, though, discussing it with your older people in advance so that they have a clear sense of where folks stand, whoever is here or on watching online as well. Okay. Any other questions for Chief Tenty or Chief Bonds? Yep. Michelle Hirsch.
Thank you, Chairman Scott Childress. Does the town of Ulster have a tactical team and a current vehicle?
We're a joint team. It's a
Okay,
multi-jurisdictional team, us and the town of Ulster, so
Okay.
we share all large equipment.
Okay, so was the current vehicle stored in town of Ulster?
Current vehicles in our parking lot.
Thank you.
All right, then any other questions or comments? Steve Shabbat.
Further question here. One of the selling points of this is the immediate access to it. So if it is out in the town of Ulster, do you have to go through additional protocols to get it from them? Or can you just go get it?
So to be clear, we are a joint team with the town of Ulster. Our emergency services unit is comprised of members of the City of Kingston Police and the Ulster Police. So anytime that we have an emergency, they're coming as part of our team. We have a memorandum of understanding with that, and that's all been worked out for several years now.
Whether it's the members of our team deploy into the town of Ulster for an event occurring in Ulster, or if their members respond to Kingston. And to date, their members have responded to Kingston more often than our members have responded out to their jurisdiction. So again, just to make clear, the committee report that I have or may have been sent out needs to be amended. I'll send a new one out to show an increase in the revenue line of the 75,000 being given to us from the town of Ulster as well. So the total purchase is going to be that 175.
All right, so you'll send us a revised.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Tony Davis?
So if I just heard this correct, it's not 100,000, it's gonna be $175,000.
Correct. And again, it's 75,000 from the town of Ulster and $100,000 grant. So zero impact to the budget,
The vehicle is
175,000.
we're getting 75,000 from the town of Ulster. you said.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are no more comments, then I'll entertain a motion to discuss. Tony Davis. Is there a second? Steve Shabbat. All right, discussion? Comments? Michelle Hirsch?
I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and including all the speakers. And I think this is a very serious situation. And 2 nights ago, we met to speak about allocating money to Peaceful Guardians to increase communication between law enforcement and our community and about policing. So I can see where this can be an extremely confusing message by the city. I am going to be a no vote on this. I believe that without even the data to know if the assessment didn't include the county vehicle. I have seen the county vehicle deployed actually on my street. It's a residential street. I'm sure there's streets where you wouldn't even be able to get the fire truck, the ladder down, right? So I just don't, I personally, I am not in favor of this and I will be a no vote. Thank you.
Andrea Shaw?
I think I also appreciate everything you've done and being here. As council president, I actually don't have a vote here at the table, but I've heard from a lot of people on my walk here, text messages during this meeting. I have not heard a community member in support of this, and that includes progressives and conservatives. Teaching a piano lesson this morning and she stopped and said, please don't vote for this. I just have not heard of anybody who thinks this is needed. So I'd rather the community come out and say, we want this, we think we need this, and then the police listen to that versus the other way around and the police saying to the community what they want and what they need. So I just can't support this at this time. Like I said, I know I'm not a voting member. I want to make my voice heard with that. And mainly if the process right now is working, then why are we going to scare our community by doing this?
Tony Davis?
Tony Davis here. I was supposed to be at this meeting tonight. I left my job that I'm supposed to be at right now because I thought this was very important to be here at this meeting because of this item on the agenda. So I could have just stayed at my job where I was getting paid and said, I'll deal with this at another time. But I thought it was very important for me to be here today. So when I got here, the reason I was on my phone is because as things were thrown out from you in the public, I was making sure that I was getting educated on what you were talking about. That is why I was on my phone. Not that I was ignoring you. I was making sure I was getting information and getting educated before I made a decision on this important issue. So I just wanted for you ones out there who are why I was on the phone. All right. So the reason I wanted to make sure I was here because I don't feel that this vehicle belongs in the city of Kingston as well. I said this to Chairman Rennie Scott Childress before I got to this meeting. I had texted him and said, I'm not gonna be able to make tonight's meeting because I have prior engagement, but I'm against this resolution or this issue. Many reasons why. I don't feel we need to have this kind of vehicle in the city of Kingston. But not only that, we have a vehicle that the police department can utilize that's 1 hour away. We've been doing that for how many years, and we've been successful when it's needed. The question, and I asked the question to figure out how much time this vehicle has been used, and that information wasn't gathered for me. That stopped me in my motions there. Like, is it 1 time a year, 2 times a year that we would be using this for $175,000 or $100,000? Is that really where the money needs to be and focus that? So I seen the protests on national TV back in June of 2020.